Great. Thank you, Eric, so much. Really appreciate the insight, and I think there's a lot to be gained from understanding how deliberate you were next year about the process, and very happy to see the results that you're getting on the back end as a result of that rigor that you put into the process. As mentioned, we're accepting questions. We have a few in now, but we would encourage anybody else on the line that does have questions to submit them through the chat panel. So, Eric, first question for you. You mentioned the supplier engagement and putting the burden on them and the level of detail that you're expecting of them to complete. How far in advance did you start communicating with suppliers about the pending change? Did you involve them all in the process before the system went live? Essentially, how far ahead of this did you get in order to ease that transition and set the expectation of what you expected your suppliers to do when quoting through the system?
That's a great question, and fortunately for us, we hold supplier conferences once a year, and it was just perfect timing for us because it was a little over a year in advance when we had identified that we needed to make a change. We knew we were missing cost breakdowns in a lot of areas, so that was kind of one of our musts. So we were able to really notify our supply base almost a year in advance into making the change. We told them in this venue that, one, cost breakdowns are required. RFQ check is really good.
Eric, can you hear us now?
Yes, I can.
Okay, I think we lost audio for a portion of that. I don't know if it was on our end or on yours, but let's go ahead and, sorry about that. Just trying to make sure you were still on the line there. Okay.
Looks like you lost everyone.
Yeah, okay. Next question here for anybody that's still remaining on the line. Sorry, pulling up the questions panel here. Eric, how did you enforce usage? Was there any tie-in from DirectWorks to PO creation? Essentially, what sort of mandates, if any, were put in place to set the expectation or mandate for using the system?
PO creation is certainly something we're looking at, and ultimately that is our end game. End-to-end sourcing from RFQ to PO creation, the nomination letter, all that is our end game and where we want to go. We're not there yet, but our mandate does come from that last slide that I showed with our sourcing approval form. The only way you can get that form is through DirectWorks. So that's where, I mean, our buyers prefer to use the system and they see the value in it, and one, it gives them that system that form very quickly, but the requirement now comes in, and it's almost like a soft requirement. We snuck it in there because the only way for them to generate that form for approval is to quote through DirectWorks.
Great. We talked a lot about the initial launch and rollout and getting some of the quick wins in terms of productivity gains and what the system allowed. How are you providing ongoing support to maintain ongoing usage, channel feedback, convey that back to DirectWorks? Can you explain how you're continuing support of the system internally and how that works at next year?
Yeah, absolutely. So the nice thing is myself and my team are tasked with, I mean, the whole purpose of why we're here is continuous improvement. And even a new launch is part of that, so DirectWorks is part of that. We have a cadence with our user group. We meet on a monthly basis if we can. Sometimes it's more than that. And we talk about all those same things that we talked about even prior to launching DirectWorks, which is, where are we at in the process, what's working, what's not working. We collect all that feedback. At times, we still use AHP to help prioritize that. It doesn't always get that complex. But I'm also in constant communication with DirectWorks or with you all at DirectWorks, letting you know, one, where we're going, where we're at, and what we expect out of the system. We work in iterations, and luckily DirectWorks, I think we've seen so many improvements in the platform over the time that we're all kind of aligned in how we work.
Great. Another question that came in, is there any tie-in to your ERP to pull in existing vendor data?
Yes, so the one tie-in I didn't really talk about is with the ERP, and we do that through a two-step integration. The quality system that we integrate with is the one that actually integrates with our ERP, And the reason for that is because we have multiple ERP instances, and anyone with that knows that that comes with its own challenges. That means that, supplier ABC could potentially be in each system as supplier ABC, supplier A dot, B dot, C dot. It could be in there a million different ways. And we needed a way to clean that up, and our quality system is that way. So everything filters through the quality system from a PO, part, supplier parent perspective before it goes to DirectWorks, and then from there we load it into DirectWorks for all of our current production suppliers in the system.
Great. I'm going to kind of rephrase a question that came in, but there was a question around Excel modeling and how you use the DirectWorks system, or how it was implemented and configured to support your calculations in piece price. So do you want to talk a bit about maybe working with DirectWorks on the modeling and necessary calculations on the output to support your analysis?
Yeah, that one's a little bit tough, I guess. When we started this, we were also starting off our cost modeling initiative at that same time. So a lot of activity was going on in terms of offline, even out of the system, what do our cost models look like? And of course, this was all done in Excel. So the nice thing is we were able to take all of those Excel sheets and those templates, make it a common all-encompassing cost breakdown, because I didn't want to overcomplicate the system right out of the gate with 10 different cost breakdown templates. So we just went with an all-encompassing cost breakdown template. All the calculations were taken directly out of the Excel sheets that we had developed. And thankfully, this time around with this ERQ tool and with DirectWorks, we were talking with people who understood direct material sourcing. So not a whole lot of explanation needed to happen. They understood what burden was, what raw material was. So it was actually really nice. We could just turn those models over that we had developed in Excel, and it was pretty much translated for us directly into DirectWorks as part of our template.
Great. Another question: when you stated single sign-on, are you integrated to your existing supplier portal? Are you using existing identity management to allow login? Can you convey that or explain how that's working currently?
Yeah, single sign-on is an initiative we started in next year about a year ago. We have yet to roll it out, so it was more of a soft requirement. We just wanted to make sure from a technology perspective that any solution we went with had open API, so a programming interface that we could get data in and out and get authentication in and out. So we have yet to implement it here. The vision is, yes, that suppliers will use a single sign-on to get into either DirectWorks or our quality system. We use two different systems for that, so single sign-on is the way to go. And then for our internal users, we want the same ease of use for them as well. We're still maybe 6 months away from deploying that at next year at all in general. So we'll be looking to DirectWorks for that in the future.
Okay. And how does next year use DirectWorks for quoting multiple commodities? So if you have a project that may have molded parts, stamped parts, et cetera, how is that being managed today in the DirectWorks solution?
To understand that answer, I'll first have to give you a little bit of insight to how we're structured. So our organization is structured by commodity, so it is not typical that you would have an RFQ going out through DirectWorks with multiple commodities on it. Now, with that said, I can tell you that because we are using a single all-encompassing cost breakdown, it is certainly doable within the platform because when you compare side by side, you do choose the item that you're selecting to compare side by side. You don't have to compare all items, so you can easily do that. Additionally, you can have team members, so you could have someone in the U.S., someone in China, or even just sitting in the same area, just different commodities. But I do have to throw it out there that typically that is not the case for us, just because how we're structured by commodity.
Okay, thanks for all the great questions. I think I addressed everything that was on the questions list. If there's any last-minute items that come through, we can circle back. But since we've exhausted those, what we can do is I'd like to, first of all, again, thank Eric for your insight and for walking us through that. We really appreciate it. And now transition to Lisa Kustra to do the wrap-up and close us out here. Lisa?
Thanks, Wes. We're really happy you all could join us for the first event in our Thought Leadership Series, The Future of Supplier Engagement, Next Generation High-Impact Transformation Methods. I want to quickly thank Eric for his time and dedication to making this event a success and sharing the journey next year is on with peers in the industry. We could certainly learn a lot from that. We want to spend the next several months bringing you insightful events and webinars with industry leaders and experts that will give you and your organization the resources you need to begin to transform the way you engage with your suppliers and the way you collaborate and source, when looking at direct materials. We'll be sending out resources on the analytical hierarchy process, AHP, that Eric highlighted today in our follow-up. The next event that we'll be having is an actual workshop called Harnessing the Potential for Sourcing Business Models in Modern Procurement. It will be on April 14th, which is a Thursday, in Detroit, Michigan. Our guest facilitator is president of the Forefront Group and co-author Bonnie Keith, who wrote the book Strategic Sourcing in the New Economy, and she partnered with the University of Tennessee on that. So there's a lot of great things that you'll be able to get out of that. You'll learn the latest business models and strategic sourcing and evaluate your company's position on the maturity scale. There'll be takeaway, easy-to-use checklist considerations that will help you evaluate any supplier. Obviously, you'll be able to network with peers, and you'll be getting a complimentary book as a takeaway as part of that as a reference guide. Right now, there's only about 20 spaces left, so we'll be sending out a link for that, and those of you in the greater Detroit area or within so many, couple 100-mile radius, it's really worth the effort to get there for this half-day session. I'd like to take a few moments and talk about a survey that we're doing with supply chain insights around direct material sourcing. The issue is there's not a lot of benchmarking material out there, but for those of you that are willing to invest the 15 minutes to fill it out, you'll get access to the results at no charge. You'll be able to compare your organization to others on the maturity scale and see where you fall as far as best in class. And then, of course, there'll be an invitation-only early readout with Laura Cestari on the results and her analysis around that, when we'll be having very specific roundtables depending on what industry you're in. So we really urge you to get involved with that so that we can do that. And lastly, we're going to be at ISM. Greg Anderson, our CEO, will actually be presenting at ISM on the technology track. We'll also be exhibiting there, and that's in Indianapolis, May 14th through the 16th. We'll also be attending the Gartner Supply Chain Executive Conference in Arizona, May 16th and 19th. And we'll also be a silver sponsor of the AIAG Automotive Industry Action Group Supply Chain Summit in Michigan. And I believe that's May 14th. June 14th. And so for those of you who are also in the medical device space, we're proud to be a sponsor of the Medical Device Supply Chain Council. I encourage you to head to our website, directworks.com, to learn more about that. DirectWorks will be at the spring meeting in Nashville, April 27th through the 29th. So again, we'll be sending all this information out in our follow-up correspondence. I want to thank you all for your attendance, and we look forward to many more events together. Thanks a lot, and have a great day, everyone.